What's up, family? Thank you so much for joining. This is something brand new for me. I'm your host, The Real Gilo. If you don't know who I am or what I do, go to my website, therealgilo.com. Link is in my bio. And we are doing something special. We are going live on X Spaces, or for the old crew, like you guys call this Twitter. So we have a live conversation on Twitter. We're recording it live, and it's going to be on all podcast formats, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, which is now using YouTube for all of the podcast hosting. And we're just excited. We're going to try this out. For those that don't know what Spaces is, it's like basically a podcast in a room, theoretically, with a bunch of people, and everybody has a mic depending on how many you want to speak. And anyways, it's like a little town hall basically. So we're going to try to record it, put it up on our podcast formats. We'll be back in about 49 seconds.
You got me headed to the left, headed to the right, headed back and forth, but baby, it's alright. You got me going to the east, going to the west, going up and down, cause baby, you know best. All day, all night, running around, I'm never gonna stop because you never settle down. You got me shooting into space, flying at the sun. I'm never coming back, cause baby, you're the one.
Okay, I think that's long enough. I don't know how long that song was. Thank you for joining. Hey, Tala. Man, what's in a pipeline for you in the next couple of days? When did you say you were leaving again?
Yeah, we're probably leaving on, assuming that everything goes well. My brother should be picking me up on the 5th, and we won't be back until the 11th. So it's a camping trip. It's time with him. It's a total solar eclipse, and there's also a comet apparently at the same time.
How interesting. I wonder if Elon's going to send up a rocket to catch it live.
Huh? That would be cool. We're headed to Texas, which of course a lot of people are. So we're kind of prepared to be very self-sufficient. My brother ordered some extra fuel storage for his vehicle just in case, because they said that gas stations might run out.
So how often does this happen? Like,
This one, I don't know. I mean, I've only had maybe a couple of opportunities before that I was not able to jump on for a total solar eclipse. And as you can see, it only happens in certain regions. So here it will not be a totality in California.
do you remember the one that Trump saw, or he was at the White House? Do you remember that?
At the White House?
Yeah.
I don't remember. We had one here that was significant enough to notice, I want to say within the last couple of years, and then there was one that was a few years before that. Yeah.
Well, so of course he had the glasses, right? And they told him, Mr. President, you got to put on the glasses. And so he took them.
Oh, yeah.
And
I forgot about that.
you know what's funny? He's not stupid, right? Like, he did it on purpose just to troll people because everybody's yelling, don't do it, don't do it.
Of course.
But what a great thing to happen if he blinded himself and he could have said, man, I had one opportunity within like 85 years and I did it. You know, that would have been classic.
Yeah, I plan on protecting my eyesight. My brother is a semi-professional photographer, so he's taking his good equipment so we can get images.
So this, okay, I totally forgot. So we got a solar eclipse and a comet. And now they're going to be on the same day?
Yeah, as I understand it, I would have to look it up again, but that's how I
Wow.
understood it. And it's just like, that's how often does that happen? Probably the only opportunity.
Do you remember the name of the comet? I'm going to look it up right now.
I don't. Yeah, I blanked on it.
Comet. I'll just do comet. It'll pop up.
Yeah. 2024 comet.
Oh, the devil comet. Wait.
That figures.
Oh, that's the one that just passed.
Is it?
Yeah.
Huh.
So there's a severe solar storm which will bring northern lights to 14 states tonight. Interesting.
Yeah. And I wish I wish I was in an area for it. I had one botched opportunity to see an aurora borealis when I was in North Carolina back in, I want to say 2012, 13, something like that. It was the one night that I didn't happen to go outside, and then we all heard about it on the news later. I was right there.
Now, I was a kid when I seen Haley's Comet. I'm not sure if anybody even remembers that Haley's Comet. It was like,
Oh yeah.
it was in the
It'll
80s.
come around again when I am 92, I think it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that means I'll be 80? Wait,
Yeah.
I think, how old are you? I think you're 10 years older than me, right?
I'm 56. I'll be 57 in a few months. Yeah.
Wait, you're 56. So, wait, I'm
Yeah.
48. So whatever that is, that's 8. So 8 years. Okay.
Yeah. Something like that. Um, the one that I did get to see and extensively, which was visible without any devices, was that hail bob. That one was visible for days. So it was during a Renaissance Fair season when I was camping outside anyway, so we got to just look up and see it all the time.
Now, what does it mean you see it for, like, what does it even mean during the daytime? I'm curious. Like,
Daytime, I don't think it's visible. This was at night. Yeah.
I gotcha.
But with this one, with a totality, it's going to make it visible.
Mm. Hey, I got a question. So I have right now, how many people am I following? Like, I don't know. I'm under 300, so I have 274 people that I follow. I unfollowed a lot of people, even my loyal followers. Like, I don't follow Lane anymore. I don't follow Joey Brooklyn anymore.
Yeah.
And the reason is I look at the last time they were on or the last time they posted. They haven't posted in like 2-3 years. So I'm like, you know, I don't even know if they even use that. So I unfollowed
Yeah.
them. So I don't know. That's just my thinking.
I do the same thing. If it's a dead account, if they haven't posted in 2 years or more, that looks to me like they're not planning on coming back. And
Yeah.
I figure if they do come back, they can let me know.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is we don't know if their account has been managed or if someone else got a hold of their account and they're using it for spamming purposes. So
Yeah, you gotta look at content. And that's what I do. Like, I open it and go, okay, when's the last time they posted? And what was the last thing they posted?
yeah. Hey, so let's talk about we had a conversation earlier, of course. Let's talk about the post we were talking about on Twitter, right? So are you honestly telling me that only now you are aware of the number of posts on someone's?
Yeah, I never saw that.
Oh wow.
I knew that you could look at it, but I couldn't figure out where, and I kept meaning to ask you, and I was like, "Where is it?"
I don't know how I knew that. It's just something I always paid attention to. For me, I mean, I don't even remember how or why I even found out or even why I even cared in the beginning. But now I care. You know, if I see someone with a lot of posts and a lot of it's just reposting, then I try to shy away from that personally.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I finally saw when you showed me like, okay, here's what happens. When I scroll down, I'm looking at the posts, so I would never have looked at the top, see that tiny little number. But all it does is it tells you the total number of posts. I mean, there's nothing else that breaks it down to what kind of posts there are, right?
Yeah, and I don't know why they make it so small. It's almost like it's kind of not important on their list, I'm guessing.
I think so. And of course, I'm trying to all the time kind of minimize the importance of certain numbers if it's going to be too much of a distraction. Yeah. And I'm still below after the purge they did. I'm still below 2000 again, but it's coming back up. I'm back up to 1985, so we're getting there.
I think it's amazing that you have let's say 2,000 followers, but you have 62,000 posts. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you would
Well,
you think you'd have more followers with that much posting?
yeah, because I clean out all the dead accounts, the bots, the junk, and most people don't do that. You see these large accounts, there's two things going on. They never throw anybody off their list,
Yeah.
and they buy followers.
Well, I paid for advertising and for engagement services. I think I've done it 3 times. And Twitter ads is a joke, or Twitter promotions are a joke because it's a money grab for them.
Yeah.
Unless you're a big time corporate account where they can. I probably should pull that back a little bit. I think if I had a lot more followers, it would make more sense.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
probably. I mean, you're at, wait, let me see. I don't even know. Okay, you've got 5,000 followers. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot of followers that I got rid of that were automated accounts or spam accounts. So
Yeah. And then they just did a purge, so that got rid of some more.
I don't know what they purged because there's more sex bots than ever. So I'm not quite sure what they purged.
Well, yeah, I think they just they respawn really fast.
Yeah. The thing is, like, we talking about creators not cleaning up their their followers list. It's because I think it'll hurt their feelings. It's like,
That's exactly what it
yeah,
is. See, that's what I mean. I try not to be stuck on that number. To me, hitting 2,000 again right now, that was really special because I had gone through and cleared out my list. I mean, I literally dumped about 1,000 accounts over the last couple of years. And it's because I was getting back to my purpose. So anything that was not aligned with that, I just needed it to go, unless it was somebody that I had really formed a good friendship with. And there's a few of those, even though most of what they post is about politics. So I just needed to clean house, and I did. And so rebuilding has been slow but intentional. And I'm okay with that because I know that all those people following me are, for the most part, present, invested, following because they want to.
yeah. Well, let's talk about the Twitter, because I haven't been on the news or what's happening, what's not happening. But what has been happening, the latest in regards to, you shared something with me about a live video space or a video, no, yeah, video spaces only for subscriptions or subscribers.
Yeah. And I mean, I mentioned a while back, I said, hey, it would be good to be able to do live stream broadcasts and spaces specifically for people who subscribe to you, which won't matter until they approve me for subscription status. I'm still waiting, of course. But apparently, you can at least do spaces for your subscribers. I don't know whether the same is the case with for live stream. I'm assuming it's not.
Yeah. So there's 2 engineers that I publicly, well, I don't know if one is a public, whatever, she's a PR person. Another one is, I think, astro engineer. And after I've shared out my displeasure, I think they don't follow or like me anymore. So one of them has a community that in their community, he redid the rules, house rules, and all that, and talking about let's not spam and all that stuff. Post relevant content. And I'm not even kidding you. Literally, 2 posts down, there's a dude holding his weapon of mass destruction in his hand, buck naked. I'm like, what the heck? So I tagged him and said, dude, what the heck? And I'm like, and now, mind you, now this community has. Let me look at it. This community has like, shoot, I can tell you right now, it's a live stream community.
With a number of shocked people right now, I'm sure.
I mean, there's like a lot of people. So it's called Live Streaming on X.
I think it's the one I joined
Yeah,
recently.
yeah. And there's a dude holding his schlong. Like, what the heck? You just
Is it still there?
let me look. Hopefully they got rid
I'm
of
not
it.
gonna look.
Yeah, I don't see it anymore.
You've already been traumatized. You do it.
Like, it was right there front and center. Like, what the heck? Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
this is the problem of not having any controls. If you open up a community for just anyone to join, yeah.
Well, Joey told me that he told me he understands what the engineers go through, which I get it. I understand that. But it's been a year, probably a year and a couple months by now. So actually a year and a half, I would say now, since they took ownership of the platform. So you would think that,
Yeah, it's been a while.
yeah.
Huh.
So
Growing pains.
so for my audio listeners on Spotify, you may not know this part, but Spaces is a kind of like a podcast style. I don't know what you call it. So they call it social audio. They're trying to find new ways to. I guess I don't know. How would you categorize Spaces to someone that has no idea? How would you sell it to somebody?
Yeah, I think social audio probably, I always tell people it's an audio discussion format, because they're so used to me live streaming that they expect to see me on video.
Yeah, I am a firm believer of, I guess, social audio now. I'm not a firm believer in the time investment. There's just way too much time being put into it. And I,
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. People, maybe their lives are enriched by it.
Mhm.
I can't understand. I could not, like, 2 hours. I'm pushing it. Like, not for me. If I'm doing a podcast and I have a guest, that's different because it's just me and him or me and her, and we're actually having a legitimate conversation. And they're at my house, right?
Yeah,
So that's how I
yeah.
look at it. But
Okay, so it depends on what you're saying is the same thing that I've said about this, actually. It depends on the energy, it depends on the people involved, it depends on the topic. So I went outside of my usual comfort zone by co-hosting for someone who was holding a topic that was a debate. And I don't like debate, but I'm okay with co-hosting to assist someone. And I just wanted that experience to be able to do that, but it went 4.5 hours. So at that point, yeah, I was tired. It was like, yo, I will be here as long as you need me, but you know, so but it went well, and I will say this, that I weekly co-host the Writers Therapy Family with Nick, Write Already Nick, Nick Bebo,
yeah,
and it normally is like, if he's really short on time, I think we've had some that were maybe just an hour, hour and a half, but it's usually 2 hours. We've gone over 2 a couple times. We had one that was 4 hours just recently, and it didn't feel like it. So the energy was good. It's a small group. We know each other well, and it was great. I wasn't tired after that.
well, Nick is good. Like, I he actually has, I will say, well, he jumps in a lot of. I think everybody does. Everybody jumps into multiple spaces.
Yes.
What I cannot do is I cannot be on my phone or computer for 4 or 5, 6 hours unless I'm actually working on it, which is what I've been doing
Yeah.
lately.
Well, you're a family man too. You've got a lot of responsibilities. So, someone like myself, if somebody asks me to co-host and I'm available, I mean, I'm really available. Like, I can rearrange just about anything unless I'm at an appointment. But you have a wife, kids, the brother, you've got a lot going on. So I can see you not having that much time, definitely.
Well, you remember Lisa Sansusi?
Oh, yes.
She was an amazing live streamer, content
Yeah.
creator, amazing musician, and she was a
High energy.
yeah, yeah, oh,
Yeah.
and great conversationalist too.
Yes.
And she was very honest about. There's this one post where she started crying, and live stream, and she was basically saying that she does spend a lot of time because she doesn't have a lot of organic friends in real life.
Yeah.
So Periscope was a way for her to have conversations. So and that I can
Same. Yeah.
understand that. But
Same for me. Yeah. Because of my illness. Yeah. When I first joined Periscope, I was far less active and I really had a lot less going on in my life. I just was not able to get out, and I still don't have any friends that I meet up with face to face here in San Bernardino. There's one Periscope broadcaster. Anne lives here in the area, but we just have not gotten together in quite a while.
I think that's what makes this hard. Like with the whole social media, it's gotten so big to where people are engaging with other people that they've never met before. And I feel like, so I'll share one side of my opinions is that it's not healthy in your organic life because when you put your phone down and you look at your life, you're like, man, this sucks. Like you haven't invested enough time into your organic life. And I think we've
I'll
all
tell you how I manage that.
okay.
Um, so let's say I'm on a space and I'm on the speaker panel. I'm not sitting there staring at my phone waiting while my hand is up. I've got my speed bag right here. I turn the volume up, I stick the phone right there on the frame for the speed bag board, and I just start working my arms. And I'm listening, or I can get my earbuds and listen even better then, but I can hear it just fine. I got my weights right here because I'm building a home gym. I'm working out most of the time when I'm listening, or I take a walk. And even as a co-host, I've been known to do that. Yeah, I stay active. I'm not just sitting, and I think a lot of people do just sit. Some don't, you
See,
know. I might be doing laundry, you know.
I think you and Dr. Heath are similar. You guys do a lot of because I don't. There's no way you can be a husband and be on Spaces for 12 hours a day and not be divorced by now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he seems to be doing okay. Yeah.
But I think so. And I know this is new ground for a lot of people that are not familiar with how social media today works in 2024. But it's weird. Let's just think about it. It's just weird, right? Okay, it makes sense what you're doing, but imagine if you're at my house and you're like you waiting for me to stop talking, so you walk and you go get your speed bag and you start doing a training session. You know, it's like, wait, what are you doing, Tala? Well, I'm waiting for you to stop talking so I can talk. Like,
That
it,
would be hilarious.
yeah, it makes sense when you're not there in person, but
Yeah, it's the ability to mute yourself.
so a good example today. My kids and I, we and my wife, we did our devotions, and if I see that my kids are not looking at me, I'll say, hey, I don't snap my finger. I use it for the audio. Hey, eyes up. Like, come on. I need to know that you're paying attention. And I think Spaces has given us the permission to not pay attention 100%. And
I
multitasking,
suspect a lot of people do that, yeah.
yeah.
I'm able to multitask and listen. It may just be the way my brain is wired. I mean, first you have to acknowledge that mental multitasking is a myth. Your brain cannot do two separate functions at the same time. It's just that we have the ability to rapid switch. But physically, you can multitask. And that's because your brain can rapid switch. So if I'm working on the speed bag, I'm hearing everything that I would be hearing if I were staring at my phone. In fact, I can actually focus on what's being said better because I just have to have some physical activity.
Well, social audio has given us permission to not be focused on our whoever's talking because nobody can see you, right? So now in person it would kind of be disrespectful for me to be like you can be in a bathroom, taking a dump or whatever, and it would be
Oh,
okay.
Lord.
You know what I mean? It would be okay. So my wife is joining us, but she is on. She's going to be talking through glow sessions, but we have a mic for her and everything. But yeah, so I think social audio has given us permission to not be 100%. I'm not saying we're not focused, but it's like I said, if we're in an organic conversation, can you imagine having a board meeting and everybody's not even looking at the speaker in the board meeting? Like the CEO is in the middle of the room and nobody's even looking at the CEO while he's talking.
Okay, let's say this. If you're doing a podcast like you and I have done together, whether it's video or audio, either one, video especially, I mean, you're a captive participant at that point. But like if I'm into an in-depth conversation with you on a topic, yeah, I'm not banging on the speed bag because it's just if it's just the two of us like it was for the first several minutes, obviously I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. So I think that's where it's hard to, I guess it's hard to believe or hard to fathom that someone can be 100% invested if they're not 100% invested. That's how I would look. And I'm sure I'm wrong. Okay, my wife is going to test your mic on.
Check, check. It's the same thing with school. Like
Yeah.
I can
Hold on. Is her audio good, Tala? Can you hear her good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can listen. I usually read my chapters like audio. So I don't have to like read it face to face, but I can listen to it and I'll do other things while I'm listening to it. But I'm not 100% fully invested in it. So sometimes I'm like, oh man, I gotta go back and read it again with my eyes and not just my
I think
ears.
it's possible for anyone to drift. Yeah.
Well, it gives us permission to drift, right? I'm not saying that we would, but it does give us permission to drift while someone else is speaking.
I'm sure a lot of people do. I mean, there's times when somebody gets up to speak and they go, what was the topic? It's like, okay, why did you raise your hand?
Well, you know they're drifting when they start dropping word salads that they always say. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Give us an example.
Yeah, we should practice word
We're not
salads.
calling anybody out.
No, I'm gonna read something. Hide it under a pillow, hon. I'm gonna read something. Let me see, and I'm not gonna give his name because it wouldn't be proper. So I'll read. Let me look it up. Let's see. So I had asked a friend of mine to jump in live. Well, I asked him to jump in on the conversation, I think. And so he didn't. And he's a very highly respected individual. Let me see if I can find him. Man. But he was talking about the whole word salad, right? So let me see if I can find it. Okay, so here's okay.
And there's some people that I consistently have difficulty following what they are trying to say. So there's communication styles that are different, let's say it that way. So if they really weren't paying attention, then it's even worse because they may just be looping through something that someone already said and not really even changing the wording, you
Yeah.
know?
So listen to this is here's one. So I this is I won't share who it is. So it's my wife is telling me, be careful. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I'm not gonna drop a name. Okay. So here is my request. I said, hope you can jump in on the conversation. So this is what was mentioned. Conversation on nonsensical abstraction of word salads holds limited appeal to me. Some believe that if you string together multi-syllabic language and that somehow it's an indication of intellectual pursuit. Time is valuable. I'll join you another time in one of your many meaningful engagements where people are genuinely connecting. So that was when I read that. I said, "Wow, he's not a unwise individual. He's very intelligent. He holds multiple degrees. Now the degrees don't obviously mean that he's automatically, what's the word?
Philosophy of the philosophizer.
You gotta turn your mic, honey. Make sure it's faced. Yeah,
That
So-
was the word of the day.
yeah.
Philosophy of the philosophizer.
And by the way, honey, we're recording live for Spotify, Apple Podcasts, so that's why I didn't mention names.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was the word of the day. Philosophy of the philosophizer, or the cleverness of the clever.
What were we talking about before my wife came? I can't remember.
Disruptor.
Disruptor.
The disruptor. I have an amazing video. I'm gonna as soon as I can upload it, I'll tag you in it. It's Stryper. They're doing an audio tour or not audio. Hello, acoustic tour. So they're doing only acoustic instruments.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
You know, I've been thinking back trying to remember because one of those boys actually was coming to my church there in Harbor City for a while, and I've been trying to remember. It's one of the suites, I think. So, and at the time, I couldn't, I was like, okay, he's which one? Because there were so many bands at that point.
I think they're all the same age as you, around the same age.
Close to it. I think they might be a little bit, they might be a little bit older than me. Because when I started going to that church, I was only, I want to say 18. Yeah, yeah. So that's a while back.
So I think Robert Sweet is the older brother, and Michael, the lead singer, he is, I think, he's pushing 60. I know that.
I know this doesn't define very well for that whole genre, but he had long blonde hair.
Yeah, that's the drummer for sure.
Long fluffy blonde hair. Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
Is that Michael or Robert?
that's Robert.
Yeah, Robert. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But see, we also had in there Dave from Neon Cross. I know him, Dave Padu. He went to high school with my brother. And then we had, oh shoot, there was another band that actually came out of Harbor Church. Battle Cry. Yeah, I know all of them.
Battle Cry. There were so many. What do we call them? Hair bands, metal hair. I don't know what you call them.
Yeah,
Hair bands.
Christian metal.
Christian
Yeah.
metal. Yeah. And I guess everybody. Well, once I think Petra was not metal, but they were the first Christian rock band to get huge, and then Stryper just opened the floodgates for everybody else.
I forgot about Petra. Yeah, they were good.
Yeah, Petra was more like, I don't know, like more rock, and then Stryper brought in the whole metal scene for bands that were Christian.
Yeah. And I was never much into concerts because I just, I don't know, I grew up a little more protected than that. And so I think I went to one beach concert when I was barely 18, and it wasn't going too well. It didn't feel safe, so we left. So the only concert I ever went to was a Christian metal concert, and that was Battle Cry, and it was just awesome.
Now, why were you exposed to Christian metal bands? That, like, were your parents strict? Is that what that was?
Um, no, my parents were taking us to church when we were little, but they actually stopped involvement when I was maybe, I want to say 6, something like that, maybe 7 at the oldest. And I didn't attend church again until I moved in with my grandmother when I was 18, and that was after I left the abusive relationship. And it was my choice. I asked her. It was weird because having been away from it for so long, I felt like I had to ask permission to go with her. I remember asking her, "Grandma," she goes, "Yeah." I said, "Are you going to church in the morning?" She goes, "Mm-hmm." She's trying to contain her excitement, I'm sure. And I said, "Can I go with you?" And she's all, "Yeah."
Well, we got a guest that just jumped in. Dr. John, it's good to have you. There is nothing a profound discussion here. We're just literally just breaking bread. So thank you for being here, Dr. John. We'd love to engage with you in conversation. Dr. John, for those that don't know, he is someone that we met on Periscope. And he's got a website. It's I believe it's saypsychological.com. And he's a psychologist with over 30 years of experience. So we're trying to make a connection where we can have a sit down discussion with him organically in person would be amazing. But, with travel restraints and all that stuff and just schedules, we're going to try to do audio only, video possibly as well. So good to have you, Dr. John. But, Tala, for me, I got into Stryper because my parents were strict at the time.
Sorry.
Like, I muted your mic. You're fine, honey. But, oh, here he is. He approved. We're approving him. Yeah, so that's why I got into Stryper, is because my parents were strict, so I couldn't listen to Metallica or all those other outlets, So that's how I got into it. Welcome to the stage, Dr. John. It's good to have you, brother.
Nice to be here. Just hanging out on a Monday night.
Before you got in here, Dr. John, we were talking about, actually even before my wife got in here, we were talking about the solar eclipse and the comet happening in the same day. I didn't even know, like, I've never witnessed something like that. Like, I'm curious, have you ever seen any solar eclipses or even comets, Dr. John?
I remember when I was really young, Halley's Comet.
Oh, yeah. I saw that one too.
Yeah, and I was actually looked it up the other day because I have a grandson, and I told him that he's 6 right now. I said, "You probably won't remember this, but when you're 42, Halley's Comet is coming by again." So it's not due up for a few more years.
I remember watching it, and I remember there was a trail of, I don't know what you call it, like stardust or whatever, and it was sparkling. I will never forget that. I actually seen that. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's every 75 years apparently. So if you see it, you'll see it once in your lifetime if you're fortunate.
Tala said she'll be 90, what, 92 the next time he comes around?
I think about that sometime in my 90s. Yeah, and I remember telling my grandmother I wanted to get out to see it. It was when I was living with her, and she was like, "Oh, it'll come back around." I went, "When I'm older than you."
Well, let's go here, and you guys can change the direction at any time. I'm not controlling conversation, but what are comets? What are stars in our solar system? If you was to talk to me, someone off the street, I had no idea. How would you explain that to me in this whole cosmic universe of what I'm going to say Christianity? How would you explain that to me? Anybody, I don't care who it is.
It's a flying piece of rock.
Aliens? Are there aliens on it? Like what's the whole purpose of it?
Well, it's just a rock, kind of.
It's a shiny rock.
It's a ball of gas. A ball of gas flying through the air.
That's my
But I'd
wife
have to go to outer
speaking.
space for that.
Someone had asked me if I believe in aliens, and I said, as far as I know, I don't believe in it. I don't have any evidence that says that there are actual other life forms other than what I can read in scripture, which would be like Nephilim, and of course, on the spiritual aspect, demons and angels throughout history have been visible, and I've actually personally had encounters. My wife and I, when we bought a house in Aiea, Hawaii, back in 2005, and I still so my great grandmother was a Buddhist, and she welcomed all types of different things into her home. And I never forget, my wife and I were sleeping, and there was a spiritual entity on the wall. I won't describe it. I don't think that's that important, but it was clinging to the wall, and it was being very, being taunting, harassing. And I just remember praying, and I just started doing my whole, I cast you out in the name of Jesus. I rebuke you, and the whole thing. And I told my wife, and so we've had a few encounters on that aspect, and even on the real beautiful angelic side. And I've shared some of those before. So in terms of aliens, I'm not saying that it's not possible. I just I don't see it in scripture where God said I created another planet as well for other life forms. So that's my take on it. But
I'm open-minded. The thing I answered that question on a post earlier today, and the thing I answered with was, I think that it would be the height of arrogance to assume that it's just us out here. But I think that we only know about the things that we are supposed to know about when we are supposed to know about it. So, yeah, open-minded.
well, that statement does make sense for me, it does make sense for me if we apply it from my limited point of view. So a good example, all of my kids could care less if they have a baby room and a year supply worth of diapers. True story, by the way. One of our kids, we had a year supply of diapers. Yeah. Like literally people kept giving us diapers, and we had a whole year. Like as a newborn baby, like as a newborn child, you don't care about that stuff. You don't even know what that means. You don't even know that mom and dad have their own bedroom. You don't know that there's a garage with 2 cars in it. You don't know that there's a 5-acre property or 10-acre property. As a baby,
Yeah.
you don't know that. And two,
Right.
you really don't care. But as a parent, it matters. Like for me and my wife, when we had our kids, like I'm going to give you everything. Everything we have is yours. You may not even know, or you may never ever see it, but it's yours. And so from that perspective, I can understand why there would be an entire universe upon galaxies just for us. That makes sense to me from
Yeah.
a God. I'm not saying I'm God, but from a godly perspective, I can understand that.
Yeah. But also, I mean, think about it this, like there are things that you have in your home that are not for children to handle and play with. So you keep those put away where they can't just go grab them and maybe hurt themselves.
Oh no, guns are fine. We leave the guns on the table. Yeah.
I'm only laughing because I mean I grew up with them myself, and when we were small enough that it wouldn't be safe, then they were put away out of reach completely. When we were old enough to be obedient, and we were, we knew where they were and that we were not to go there, we were not to touch them. But my father didn't make them forbidden fruit. It was, if you want to see them, you ask, and we will safely handle these and bring it out and talk about it. So we were never tempted to do something that we were told not to do.
Now, for liability purposes, because I'm going to be on Spotify and all that. I do not
Yeah.
condone parents leaving their guns on the table. I was just making a joke. So let's be clear. I don't want people to say, because people will snippet this and like, you see what he said? No, no.
Yeah.
Hawaii just passed a law. No, not a law. They're trying to where you cannot possess certain types of firearms, and they're trying to pass it. They're trying to follow California, basically.
Oh boy.
And
That's a slippery slope.
it's hard to not get political. And I'm a firm believer in someone's rights to carry or protect their household. And I know that we're in different times, but there was a guy, and he was a doctor. Yeah, he was a chiropractor.
Chiropractor, yeah.
He killed his 2 kids.
3.
Was it 3?
Yeah.
3 kids and his wife and himself.
Wow.
But he didn't do it with a gun. He did it with
Yeah.
he did it with a knife.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's some crazy.
So people have presented this argument, well, if you don't have them, if it's not legal, you're not going to, and they'll say you can't do as much damage without that. And I'm like, let me refer you to an article, and I'll pull up the one of the mass stabbing that happened well, there's been more than one, but there was one that was in China, I believe. It wasn't just, it was more than one person, but it wasn't just a couple of people. It was a mass stabbing. So yeah, that can happen. And we've said this before. Locks only keep honest people out, and
Right.
the laws are not, if you're a lawbreaker, then it doesn't matter what law you pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard for me and my wife to have this conversation without pointing it to Christ, because the obvious answer really is we can pass all legislation, all these things. At the end of the day, if people are not in a good place, it doesn't matter what devices they have to hurt each other. Like, you have to be in a good place. Like, obviously for us, you have to have a relationship with the Lord to be able to walk through some of these chapters that I'm sure that doctor was going through some stuff. It's there's no way.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there had to have been some luggage she was carrying.
It's not normal behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. His oldest daughter was 17. That was crazy. It's hard to believe that. It's hard to believe that you would do something like that.
Well, yeah, and even more so because you guys are parents. Like, you have an understanding of what it is to be a parent that I will never have. And so that has to be even more mind-blowing, because the instinct of protecting a child, and certainly your own child, is powerful. So what crosses that barrier,
Right. Like, why would you, and he lived where I grew up too.
Wow.
In Manoa, when I moved with my grandma. Well, my grandma always lived in Manoa my whole life, but out of that place, it was always a quiet neighborhood. Nothing ever like on this scale would ever happen. So it was just, it was kind of a shocker when it
Well,
did
and
happen.
Hawaiian culture, all the islander culture, just
Yeah.
like my native culture, is very family tie oriented, very, yeah, you protect everybody, right?
Yeah. And so that's kind of like, whoa. And that was kind of I want to say like a shocker. I want to say that's kind of it is a shocker for us as a people, as a culture, right? Because it's like, whoa, who does that? Like, that's not normal. It's not normal. It's not normal behavior in Hawaii either. It's so crazy that I see more and more people talking about it. Like, what's going on, Hawaii? What's going on with you? And I feel like more people are now checking on their family, because just because of this incident, it's like, okay, I need to go and, call my family, see if they're okay, see if they're all right. If you need somebody to talk to, I'm here. It's not worth it. Not worth doing something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people who I would say up until 2020, they were probably holding on by bare threads. And this whole thing the last few years pushed them over the edge. And so there are people who might not have snapped or maybe not have done so quite so soon, but the strain, it became
Right.
too much.
Well, Dr. John he mentions in a purple pill, but I know he just stepped out, but it's good to have him for a minute. You know, the ironic thing is the guy that killed his family, he was Japanese. You know, he was part Japanese.
Wow.
I don't know how much Japanese he had, but it was, and
Yeah.
it one is not normal, which we obviously covered, but it's crazy that he did it. I don't know if it was a sword or a knife, but I'm pretty sure it was a knife or I don't know. Like, okay, to do one, I get it, but then to follow through on the next and the next, and then he killed himself with a
Yeah.
knife.
And a blade that's intense. Like, I've had a little bit of training on how to handle blades, even in a conflict, and it's even when you're training with a blunt instrument, you're very aware that you are becoming blade aware. You're conscious of where that is. Like, you can train with a non-sharpened, butterfly knife, and one technique is to put lipstick on the edge. So if you're flipping it around and you come up with lipstick on your skin, you're like, "Oh, okay, that would have been bad." It makes it real when it's red, especially. So, someone who's able to follow through with something that violent, that's that's a whole other level to pick up a blade and do that.
Well, there's uh, two scenarios where I see that could happen. One, he actually did it, and then you got a whole set of psychological issues and obviously demons in the closet, or he didn't do it and somebody else did. You know, like,
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how many times they said that he stabbed himself, and I don't know if you could stab yourself that many times and not die.
Adrenaline
Like,
can do a lot, but
yeah.
yeah, that is a good question. It's like there was a story, I don't know, a few decades ago about someone who supposedly killed themselves by hitting themselves in the head with a ball peen hammer like 23 times. I'm dubious.
well, I'll tell you what, that's a no quit attitude. I'll tell you that much. My goodness.
But to hit yourself right?
Hashtag never quit.
I would go brain damage before I get to finish a job. My goodness.
Well,
Can't find
the
my
thing
head
is,
after a while.
the story read something like, while his wife and her lover looked on. So you know what happened
Oh
there.
my goodness. Okay. Yeah, we all know what it's kind of like what happened with okay, we're not getting political, but remember Nancy Pelosi's husband? Like,
Oh, yeah.
we know there's more to the story. I mean, come on. Like
Oh, yeah.
a random hammer attack? What?
Yeah, nobody's fooled.
Just a random hammer attack. Okay.
I hate to laugh, but I mean, everything has become so ludicrous that you can't help it anymore. And if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Right?
Well, even what happened in Las Vegas, right? And I totally get it. It was very tragic. And whatever the truth is, even the one in Hawaii where the guy got stabbed, where he stabbed all his kids and his wife and then himself, whether that's true or not, it is evil. It's just straight up evil. No matter
Yes.
how you look at it, it's evil. And if he did do it himself, to be able to follow through after the first one, you have to be carrying or internally have some form of demonic possession to be able to kill that many people, not
yeah.
just random people, but they're your
Yeah.
family.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and I won't get graphic about it, but you have to understand, of course, in the middle of something that messy, it's also physically difficult. And so the amount of maybe rage that it takes to deal with that and still physically perform that task is just yikes. Yeah.
I killed a fish one time, and I'll never forget. Like after the first, so my uncle used to take us fishing in this place called Kale Hole in on the Big Island. It's on the Kona side. And so we would catch, we call them these rockfish. They're tiny little red. We call them rockfish, but they're not really rockfish, but they're tiny little red fish. And we'd use them for bait and we would cut them up. So my uncle's son, or I guess my cousin, like, as you can say, one of the fish, he took a rock and he smashed it and killed it. And so I'm like, oh, that's so graphic and that's so gross. And then when it came my turn, you have to dispatch the fish. So I ended up, I had his rock, and I'm like, after that first head smash, I'm like, oh, I felt so bad. I felt so guilty. But after a while, I was like, oh, just keep going. Like,
Yeah, there is something that shuts off because the human psyche can only handle processing so much, especially if it's the first time. It's like I used to take out the ground squirrels on my property in Banning with a pellet gun because they're non-native, they're invasive, and they're destructive. So we had permission to do that. But the first one that you kill, it's like, man, it's this little animal, you really feel it. But after a while, it just becomes perfunctory.
whoa, hey,
Yeah.
well, hold up. We're not gonna pretend to know what that word is. What the heck is
Go
perfunctory?
look it up.
I'm gonna Google it. What the heck, Tala?
I want to see what you come up
Okay,
with.
hold on. Perfunk. Here we go. Google's
I
on
like
it.
making him look things up.
Adjective.
It's just like
I'm
working
evil.
Wait. Of an action or gesture carried out with a minimum
It's like you become
effort
numb to
or
it.
reflect. Wow.
Yeah.
Tala killed a squirrel perfunctorily.
Perfunctorily.
Perfunctorily. Yeah. Which means you did it with minimum effort or reflection, which means you killed the thing without even caring. That is.
Well, I don't know if I didn't care, but
that
it does, as you pointed out, it becomes easier. You have to like shut off something and say, this is a task. I have to do this. Some people can't stand to kill mice, and I will tell you that. Like in recent years, I had to get rid of a bunch of mice in the house here. Most people don't think about that. I'm at a point where I didn't really like it, so I got a live trap and released them far from the house. Um, if I had to go back to using snap traps, I would, but I think about that kind of thing, like, I won't use glue traps, I think they should be banned.
Yeah. We used a glue trap where we used to live in my Palo, and we had these, like, I guess there were rats or whatever that came up because we lived by the freeway, and across the street was like all this food places. So sometimes we would get them. So we had one, and we used one of those glue traps, and
Oh, no.
it like carried itself down the kitchen, and it bit off his leg. So his leg was
No!
still in the trap, but he was gone. He took off somewhere.
Wow.
It's like,
I mean, I've heard of coyotes doing that, but wow. I saw somebody in some group recently on Facebook saying that they had glue traps out and they caught a lizard on it accidentally. I'm like, "You need to get rid of the glue traps because that's terrible. We need those. We need those animals, we need lizards." So,
right.
yeah, I don't like those things.
My
So I
nephew
have
stepped in
feelings
them.
about it.
It is very sticky though. My nephew, I think he was like 4 years old, and he had stepped in it, and he was crying because we had the hardest time trying to get it off its foot. Poor thing. It was kind of funny, but it wasn't at the same time.
Wow.
But
We just cleaned out the barn actually before I told you I was gonna go live, and there was so much. I don't even know what you call it. What do you call mice feces or whatever? But there's so much, and they're not just feces, but they're
they're pellets.
no, like when they chew through stuff, it's like, what the heck? Like, they're dirty animals. Like, if they cleaned up after themselves, it wouldn't be a problem.
They
You know what I mean? But they're dirty.
eat all of their mess.
Yeah, or throw it away. What the heck? But even the one that we smashed well, let me take that back. We didn't smash a mouse, but we have a trap in our kitchen because we had a mouse, and we just forgot about the trap. And well, I don't know how long that poor mice has been there, But my daughter told me, "Hey, Dad, we have a dead mouse in the spice rack thing."
Ew.
No, yeah, bro. And she
I'm not
goes,
cleaning it.
she goes, "I think his head came off." I'm like, what? The trap. So it's made by Victor. Victor makes the best snap traps on the planet. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I think they put MSG on it, or I don't know what they do. But the one I had was the plastic one. So Victor makes plastic traps now. And oh, this one was vicious. The head was stuck in the trap, and the body of the mouse was like someplace else. It was crazy. I don't know how he did it, or like I don't know what it was. Yeah, it's horrific. But I don't know why I brought that up.
Terrible.
That's so gross. I didn't even
Everyone
bother.
Spotify is going to be like, what the heck?
Yeah, I know. We got to talk about. Let's go back to. I want to talk about you since you're here. Your engagement on X or Twitter. Has it gotten really good since you started investing more time on Spaces?
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, because I've made connections with people. I've made friends, real legitimate friendships. This is a subject that I tackle pretty passionately. I don't like for people to say in real life, IRL. I don't, you notice I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have to go do some IRL stuff. It just sounds weird to me because I didn't stop doing anything in my real life, if you want to call it that. Like as I pointed out, I could be on a space and doing laundry or working out or whatever. But to me, when someone says that, it's quite dismissive.
Yeah.
Um, Even before I met you face to face, you're my friend. I haven't met M yet. You're my friend.
Mm-hmm.
We've known each other a long time. So it's not about being face to face. There are people who say, well, if we make that connection, we meet up and I see you face to face, then it's real. But until then, I'm like, what? I'm fake? I think that's kind of rude because there are some really nice people on here who are quite sincere.
I think I found the right word, and I think I don't use IRL anymore because I don't. First of all, I don't like it. I don't like the way it sounds. But I think I use the word organic.
Yeah,
And
I've heard you say
I
that.
think that's
And I just say face to face, oh, I met someone face to face. But I feel like, okay, you said this quite a while back. Like the first time, well, I guess the only time we got together, did we get together? No, we got together twice, I think, right? I can't remember. But when
yeah.
I first met you, you said, and it was like, unless somebody has done this, they wouldn't really understand. But you were like, it almost seemed like a hug was unnecessary, was the word you used. It's like we talk to each other every day. We know each other like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I knew what you were getting at. I understood it. Because it's not like, oh, long lost friend. No, I just saw you yesterday, even though it was on a camera. Yeah. So we're used to that. The people who have not done live streaming, who have not been on camera, they're not used to it yet. And I've been surprised to see how many people are actually very nervous when they do a video space because they haven't been on camera before. And they're like, oh my God, well, take a breath. It's not going to hurt you.
Well, I wonder where were they before Twitter? Because live
I don't
streaming has
know.
been around since 2010 at least.
Yeah. But we got all these other Vine and all these other things that are gone now, but it's not new.
Yeah, well, and even video, like video, you know, I used to post videos on Facebook, way
Yeah.
before live streaming
Yeah, I
got
guess they're
popular.
not recording videos like what we've done, video, post it, video, post it. And um sometimes people see a video if they're not that familiar with it, they'll be like, "Oh, I missed you live." I'm all, "No, I wasn't live. It's just a video." Look at it again. It's not live.
So I got, and then this is all public, so I'm not blasting anybody for anything that's not there already. And I'm not blasting anybody, but there was a comment made in regards to one of my live streams and live videos, and it wasn't directly at me, but I was involved in the conversation because I went live on this Spaces, which had video. I think, yeah. And so the conversation came up about podcasting, and I think we've had multiple discussions. And podcasts, I get it. Podcasting has been around for like 30 years, maybe. or maybe not. I forget. Whenever
I think so.
whenever the iTunes came out.
It's a long time.
So, and let's just, hey Google, when did iTunes come out?
20?
Here is some information from the web that might possibly help. According to Wikipedia, introduced on April 28, 2003, the iTunes Music Store allows users to buy
25,
and download
26
songs with
Yes.
200,000 tracks available at launch.
So at least 20 something years. Podcast has been around for 20 something years. At least 23. Yeah. So it's nothing new. Anyways, getting back to the whole live video, and I'm not saying I'm called out. I don't think it was called out, but I was put on display that what I do, or what whoever does live streaming video, it's not a podcast. And so I totally agree with that in that respect, if you're talking about RSS feeds and all that. But if Joe Rogan says that when he's on YouTube, it's a podcast, I'm going to say Joe Rogan is right. So I'm going to go on what he says.
Well, yeah, and I agree with you
It is
because
a
I looked
podcast.
up all the definitions, and it's like I guess some people don't consider video to be podcasting at all, but that's not true. It has evolved into that as well.
So here's another question. If I talk on a live stream, is it not a live stream because I'm talking and there's audio? So, so
Exactly.
yeah. So
We got to be able to adapt and evolve here.
So if you do
Right,
video,
and it's not that important.
it's not. Yeah, my wife said. What you say? It's not what? Say it.
It's not that important.
No. That one.
Which one?
It's not
It's not what?
high school.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not high school.
Who
Who
cares? Who
cares?
cares?
I agree.
We're not gonna scrap in the middle of the parking lot after school. Who cares?
Well, I don't know, Gilo. I mean, you're looking pretty tough in that photo. I could take you.
Which one? The one with the red? Well, I'm angry and on fire. I don't think so. Maybe the gray one. The gray.
Hey, I got flaming wings behind me.
Well, I don't have any wings. I just had the pure fury of heaven behind me. You see that bright red? Yeah. Let's talk about not drama. What were we talking about? I had it on the tip of my brain. Now it's gone. I'll bring it back in just a second.
Which one? High school.
Yeah, was it high school? I can't even remember.
I find it funny because it's amazing to me that adults still act like they in high school and they feel like they have to compete with each other. I
Yes.
find that
Oh,
funny.
yeah, competition. I could go on about that.
There's a lot of it.
You know what? My mentor has gotten in my face a lot lately about that. Like, you're not, because everything he teaches is it's you versus yesterday. It's you versus you. It's being a better version of yourself every day. You're not in
Right.
competition with anybody else. I mean, he's drilled that into me and I get it. But it's still so easy, just human nature, to start looking around and go, well, how come I'm not where they are? You know?
Yeah. But then to do high school drama, that's the part that I find funny. It's like
I skipped that. I went to
Yeah.
a private school.
You went to private school too?
Yeah. After 5th grade, I was not thriving in the public system. It was destroying me, honestly. And so the how do I put this? The group that my parents were involved with at the time, which I would say not always the best teachings, but they had a school attached to that organization. And the school did right by me in that it gave me a place where I was not being emotionally beat down all the time. But it was not as heavy on the academics in a way that made it possible for me to pass the test. And so I took the proficiency exam when I was 16 because I was old enough. But I have not only dyslexia, but what they call dyscalculia. And I was told the test would not be heavy on math, and it was. And what's worse is it was math word problems. So I failed miserably. So that we learned a lot of other things, and I'm very much self-taught because obviously I'm intelligent and literate, but not thanks to the public school system at all.
Yeah, I grew up in a
That's a
public
real
school
word.
system.
I looked it up.
Which one?
Dyscalculia?
Dyscalculia, yeah.
What the heck? It's a disability resulting in difficulty learning or comprehending arithmetic, such as difficulty understanding numbers, learning how to manipulate numbers, performing mathematical calculations, and learning facts in mathematics.
Yeah. And it's
Oh,
kind of, so far as I understand it, it's a part of, kind of spins off of having dyslexia.
Mm.
So I can add, I can subtract, I can multiply. I cannot work a division problem to save my life. And I would sit down and my mom would show me how, and we'd go through it and through it. And okay, I got it. Next day, Groundhog Day, every time. And it's just been that way my whole life.
that's interesting.
Yeah, very. But I went to public school and uh it didn't do me any favors. But taught me about what public school does and how they, how they teach you. Um there's that concept of the bell runs your life. Um and also even being Native Hawaiian, right? They teach you your culture their way versus, when you grew up in culture and your family teaches you what your culture truly is. It's just two different ways of there's conflict because you're taught your culture the way your family dynamics is, and then you're taught culture by a school system that's not meant for you to thrive in when you
Yeah,
get out.
exactly. Yeah. And of course, the school system here, to a certain degree, would teach um, the history of the settlers and some things about Native Americans that I don't find to be all that accurate now. I don't know how much that has changed. I don't know what has been repaired in that, but from what I gather from people who have kids in the system, it's not much better than when I was a kid. So I wish that indigenous culture overall had a better focal point in all of the school systems in the United States.
So if I go to, so there's this town, or I guess it's a city, or I don't know what it's called. It's called Warm Springs, Oregon, and so it's a part of Oregon in between Central and where Portland is, and it's a huge community of,
Native
I
American.
want to say Native Americans. But here's my question: if I am a Native American, or let's say I'm in a conversation, like, do they call each other Native Americans?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I
That's an
don't know what to
interesting
call them.
question.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, do they like? Hey,
Yeah.
hello, my Native
So,
American friend.
yeah, okay. So this is a fun one. Everybody has their preferences. Various ethnicities are the same in this. So if you're talking to somebody who's not indigenous at all and they say Indian and they don't specify American Indian or yeah, usually they'll get called on the carpet for it. But when we're not talking around anybody else and it's just native people, we say Indian, but it's you see that you hear the accent, not
Mhm.
Indian, Indian.
Mm.
It's almost like there's no A in there at all. And so we're not offended by it amongst ourselves, but if somebody else says it, it's like, yeah, you know. And there's a lot of jokes too. I mean, you've probably heard Jim say feather not dot, and some people get offended by that, but I mean,
Oh, right, feather not
y-
dot.
yeah,
Well,
you can't be too thin-skinned,
Right.
really, you know? So, Native American is something that I use because it's recognizable for people. I don't like American Indian. That one kind of grates on me. I don't know why. It just doesn't feel right. But really, I mean, like you were talking about in Hawaii, you don't say Asian, you
Yeah.
identify specifics, Japanese, Korean, Chinese, Filipino. And
well,
so
yeah.
with
What?
us, it's that way. They're tribes.
Well, it's I think Chegs. What's his name? Chegs. I can't remember Chegs,
Yeah.
and he made a comment about how Vietnamese food is highly underrated, and so I responded and I
Mm.
said, well, it depends on where you are, and I put LOL, and I,
Yeah.
I said in Hawaii, it's like it's top notch. Like nobody underrates it. Like, and I said, what did I say? And I said, now if I'm in country town USA, of course, Vietnamese food is going to be underrated, right? And so,
Go to the San Francisco area and try to find good Mexican food. It's trash.
so it's like, and then he goes, "Well, is it good?" I said, "Yeah." I mean, so I basically said, "Of course it's good. Like we're the melting pot of the Pacific, first of all, and second of all, for hundreds of years, Vietnamese people, they're not going to open up a Chinese restaurant." Okay, or
Right.
Chinese are not going to open Japanese. Now here in the mainland, it's different. Chinese people, bro, they open up everything. If it makes money, they'll open it. But so the food is authentically good, and I said, and on top of that, like we don't use the word Asian. Like it's almost like for me,
An abomination.
it's like an abomination to call. It just feels weird. I never say I'm Asian. First of all, I'm not Asian. I'm
And on
predominant.
the mainland, it's the opposite because here in California, people will look at you and go, rugs are Oriental, people are Asian. That's literally what they say here.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah, they don't like it.
the funny one is watching that Chinese guy make fun of white people. That was a funny video.
You know, can we go back to Blazing Saddles days? Because nobody was getting mad about that. Everybody still finds it funny. So, if I ever, like, if people ask me about my background, ethnicity wise, you'll hear me say, my tribe is Aniyoia. And we are known to everyone else as Cherokee, but that was not our word. And so people get the idea because they hear Cherokee and then they go, oh, well, in the Cherokee language, it's Jalagi. I'm like, yeah, but it wasn't even our word. It's what somebody else was calling us.
Right?
So here's what happened is, as the colonizers were here and moving across, they would get to speak somebody's language and they'd say, who are those people? And they would say, that's, the enemy or the people who came out of the ground, the people from the cave or those other people. That's literally what they were calling their neighboring tribes. And that's how we ended up with all these Americanized names that are not what we call ourselves.
Well, it's like there's a town in Oregon called it's spelled OWA OWYHE. So they say Hawaii. And the reason why they said they spelled the town that name is because they couldn't say Hawaii. So
Oh, man.
you going out there, Hawaii? So they named the town Hawaii, which is their way of saying Hawaii, or technically it should be Hawaii. But
Yeah.
and then there's another town in the Portland area. It's spelled ALOHA. Now this is a funny one. This is a funny one. So
Oh,
it's spelled
boy.
ALOHA, and you'll think it's Aloha. So everybody calls it, oh yeah, that's Aloha. That's near Beaverton, Oregon. It's called Aloha. But historically, it was actually supposed to have been named after, and this is funny, after a quote unquote Native American name or town, which was Aloha. Like, I don't know how you would say it, but I'm going to say Aloha, right? So somebody screwed up where they're like, wait a minute, we're going to name it a Hawaiian name, but really it's an Indian name, but they got the
Wow.
So
A native
I'll
name.
teach you a word that's a very, very old one that is broadly accepted amongst those who have the kind of knowledge that I do. And it is the oldest known name for all of the indigenous native people on this continent, and it's Panasi.
Panasi.
Panasi. Yeah.
See, I
And
don't.
there's not that many people who know that word.
Panasi.
What does it mean?
Yeah, it's Pnaci. Well, I'll tell you that like all of the names that indigenous people here call themselves translate pretty much the same. It's always going to be earth people, red earth people, the first people. Yeah, it's all very earth connected. And so that one, I'm not sure of the exact meaning, but I would just about bet that it's the same thing. Yeah, which is where First Nations comes from.
Interesting, yeah. That's why I don't like calling native people. In
Na-
fact, I don't like calling them Native American. I don't like calling them Indian because in Hawaii we were the first people, right? So we're
Yes.
native to the land. That's
Yeah.
why we're Native Hawaiians.
Are
But
we
You're
na-
indigenous
are we
also,
Native
yeah.
Americans too then? With
Yeah,
that,
that's a good question. So like I'm terrible with geography. Again, I don't have a high school diploma. I mean, is Hawaii's an island? Is it part of the continent?
Well, we as a people don't consider ourselves American.
Yeah.
So we say
So
that
you wouldn't be, yeah.
we're native Hawaiian or Kanaka Maoli,
That's so beautiful.
which is native of the land. And,
Yeah.
yeah, technically, I have no idea. I know America occupies Hawaii, but we don't consider ourselves as
Yeah.
American. And the funny thing is, somebody asked us a question and we said, no, we don't celebrate Independence Day like how, in America
So
they
you just
celebrate
blow up
4th of July.
fireworks all year.
Yeah, we just blow up fireworks.
It's a good opportunity to blow something up.
Well, here's a funny experience. Okay, so we've been in Oregon 2 years now, and so we try to travel. We've tried to travel a lot, and we slowed down a lot in the past 6 months. But the last 4th of July we just celebrated here. It was just a surreal, and it was very weird because fireworks were going off, and these guys next to us. I'm not talking bad about it because they're passionate, right? But as soon as the fireworks went up, and everybody was like, "Yeah, yeah, America, America, yeah,
You're not
America,"
used to that.
and I'm like,
It's weird.
"Wow, this guy is really happy." And I get it, like so I'm not speaking against the culture, but I guess if I was born and raised here, I would celebrate it the same way.
Yep.
But I'm not. I can't go to Hawaii on the 4th of July and light fireworks and scream, "Yeah, America, we
They would think
dominated
you were
you."
a tourist.
Yeah, they're like, I'd be like, "Yeah, America, we took over your nation. Yeah, go America." Like, no, that's not how it works.
Well, there's
Okay, so people ask me this about Thanksgiving. Do you celebrate Thanksgiving? You've even asked me that. And the answer is it's a holiday that people have off work. And so regardless of how you feel about that, a lot of people use the opportunity to get together with their family. And what is wrong with giving thanks, right? We do that every day anyway.
Well,
But
I'll jump in before
yeah.
my wife does because but we definitely celebrate because, one, we like food. Number two, the fact that they tricked the Indians before they tricked the Hawaiians, bro, that's legit. So, Hawaiians got to step up. We got a leg up on the quote unquote Native Americans. You guys were food before, like.
Man.
No. Listen, our vices were not guns and whiskey. Our vices were steak. So, yeah.
And they got to my tribe early.
Well, we did celebrate, I want to say, Thanksgiving, but not the way that America would celebrate because I don't know, we celebrated with family food and whatever, but our food was not American. Our food was
Crab leg steak.
our food was Hawaiian
I'm
food.
coming to your
Lau.
house.
I mean, that's what we ate growing up. It was all Hawaiian food, or because I'm half, so I'm half Hawaiian, half Puerto Rican. So on my Hawaiian side, that's what we did. We celebrated with Hawaiian food. When I went to my Nana's house on the other side, we celebrated with all Puerto Rican food, but nothing was ever really American. And when we did eat turkey, it was kalua turkey. I mean, we cooked the turkey in an imu and shred it like how we would shred pork, and we just ate it that way. But it's kind of
Well, in 2024, I think we've pretty much adopted a lot of the
right,
Western
but we're
market.
talking about
Growing up.
Oh,
yeah.
growing up. And even with I want to say even with 4th of July, like a lot of people don't know that Hawaii did not belong to the United States when 4th of July was happening, when America was gaining their independence. Hawaii was we were still a sovereign nation.
When is
Yeah.
independence? Is it 1796?
1776.
Oh, 70.
1776.
I knew it was a 76 somewhere. There's a
doesn't
6
even know.
somewhere.
Kamehameha was still conquering other islands.
Yeah.
Well, when in my grandmother's time, and I can't remember exactly when, I should know this because I did a states report when I was in like 5th grade, but um, Oklahoma was Indian Territory. That's how it was marked on the map. It wasn't a state yet. So I think we've still got some stuff in the family. We've got some maps that are marked that way.
Wow.
Now, Oklahoma, we were there last year, or I can't remember, but we were there for a conference, and I learned that there were 500, over 500 tribes
Hmm.
that were, um,
Migrated.
well, that's not even the right word. They were basically
I mean,
pushed there. They were pushed
right.
to Oklahoma, and we met with, I don't know how you would respect his name honorably, but his name is Nigel Big Pond. Amazing man. He represents First Nations
Yeah.
of this group of well over 500 tribes.
I forgot what tribe he's from.
See, this is the thing is people don't realize when they say Native American or American Indian or whatever, they think that it's all the same. Like, I want to learn to speak Native American. Okay, which one?
Yeah, right.
They don't realize how many tribes, how many clans, how
Dialects.
many. Yeah, there's nations. There's a lot of different designations and dialects. Absolutely. My teacher when I lived in Oklahoma, he was old school. He was Kituwa, which is a different band altogether. Hey, Marty, nice to see you. So yeah, there would be different dialects even within the Cherokee language, and then the other closely related woodland tribes, there might be similarities, but the language wouldn't be identical. Yeah.
Well, even in Hawaii, right? Because we all speak pidgin, right? But every island has its own dialect in how they speak. But even in Native Hawaiian, same thing. Every island has its own style of speaking, which is different. Because even Niihau is still a privately owned island and not, it's not open to the public. You can't go there, but they speak an old language that nobody speaks anymore, which is so cool. But
Yeah, there are a lot of languages and traditions that are we're losing stuff just like you guys are, and it's hard. We lost a lot of native speakers in my nation. Um, Various things that happened from 2020 on, of course, and then there's just the population that's getting older. So
right.
we've tried to encourage the youth to learn the language, but it's been like pulling hen's teeth, and that's not just the Cherokee, but also even Lakota. I know some people who are, working to preserve the culture and languages in
Yeah.
the what's called the Siouan tribes. It's Sioux is not their word, but Lakota, Dakota, all of those people. Yeah.
It's interesting because when you preserve your culture, you preserve basically who you are, and that's what we're doing in Hawaii. I feel like with the language. I mean, the language is coming back,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually have Hawaiian immersion schools. In fact, my sister used to work at one in Pololo. It was called Kekula Kaiapuni o Anuenue.
Anuenue. We always call it
Yeah,
Anuenue. It's shorter.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's native people teaching native children and raising them up, not necessarily well in the culture but in the language, because that's not something that we want to lose. Like in the same way in public school, like I was saying, it was just there's a whole bunch of confusion because at home with my grandma, when I would talk with her and share with her, it was very different than what they were teaching us in public school. So there was that controversy. But I want to say, because I had that relationship with my grandma, I believed my grandma more than I would believe a public school book that was written by somebody
Oh
who was
yeah.
not Hawaiian, who wants to tell me what my culture is, what my nation is, and this is the way, and this and that. My grandma,
Yeah.
she never sugarcoated anything, and she didn't make like we were the greatest type of people, because we had faults as well, but she didn't she didn't try and make our culture out to be like a dominating culture over everyone,
Yeah.
but that
Now,
everybody had a space.
then and now was or is the Hawaiian languages, are those taught in your public school system or no?
It's an elective.
It's an elective now, I want to say, but it wasn't growing up. The conversations that I would have, because my grandmother spoke.
Well, it depends on the county, because on a
Yeah.
Big Island,
Ah.
I remember. So the Big Island, so there's 8 major islands, 4 different counties. You got the county of the Big Island, city county of Honolulu, city county of Maui, and then what's the 4th one?
Kauai County.
Hawaii County. Yeah, so there's 4 counties. So when I was a kid, up until I left the Big Island, it was I want to say the word, it was required, because I don't know if it's even required. It was just a part of our curriculum. Like every Tuesday and Thursday, we would meet with we call it kumu, and then we would watch videos on lava. I mean, it's oversimplifying it, but we would watch movies on lava and volcanoes, Hawaiian culture, and then on the other days we would meet it with a music teacher, and everybody got an ukulele. Like everybody, like it was so crazy. I don't.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and of course, I think during the 80s, I think we all got a flutophone. Is that what you call it? Yeah.
Oh, yep.
So in that respect, in our county, it was not necessarily required. It was just a part of the curriculum. And I don't even know what it is today, because our
That's
kids,
the history
yeah.
part of Hawaii. We were always taught our history in school, but then, the music
Was it
too, same
accurate?
thing. Not always accurate.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
That's the problem.
Well, I think, without getting conspiracy theorists, I do know that a lot of it was,
Yeah.
how should I put it? I do
I know where
believe
you're going. Yeah.
I do believe that the Department of Education, the people that were in there, had the best intentions, but it
Yeah.
wasn't accurate in the sense of giving us everything.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I didn't learn until I was a grown up. Like, I had my own kids, my own family. I didn't realize until I got older the perspective of that King Kamehameha, who we idolize, and I'm sure he was a great man,
Mhm.
but the term that we use is that he unified the kingdom of Hawaii, and which is true. But can you imagine? I don't care who the president is. Let's say it's President Trump or President Biden, maybe Biden's vice, whoever. I don't care. And they say, "Join our country, or we're going to bomb you to kingdom come." What do you think they're
Yeah.
going to do? They're going to join the country. So in essence, that's kind of what happened with King Kamehameha. He basically killed his own people to unify all the islands. Now, they don't teach you that as a kid, right? They just tell you, oh, now if we were smart enough back then, we would say, wow, he unified Hawaii with the final battle, which he used cannons. Okay, he used cannons with cannonballs. Now, anybody that has a brain will go back and look at a history and go, wait, I didn't know Hawaiians made cannons with cannonballs and gunpowder. Wait a minute.
Yeah,
Wait, they had more than canoes?
Gunpowder originated in China a long time ago, didn't it?
Yeah, so the cannons that they got, however, were from Russia or British people, or
Russia, because
okay.
Kamehameha became good friends with a Russian commander, and Kamehameha, he was a good strategist. He was a very good warrior. He was good at strategizing. He was good at getting to know your opponent, so to speak. Good at knowing, okay, what can I get from this person, and how can I use this to my advantage? And that's pretty much how he conquered, all the islands, and not just killing our people by blasting the side of the mountain and forcing them up the mountain, but also even in using the people, right? Using the women to I'm going to say using the women to prostitute them so that he could get guns, so that he could get all these things that he needed to conquer the islands, right? Not thinking necessarily about casualties or what would be happening because this is what you were doing. But, his whole focus was just on uniting the islands. And we were almost a died out nation because of those things. We were 300,000 strong and we went down to like 10,000 people, maybe, if even.
Man, I
know.
feel that, because okay, so some of these sports teams, they capitalize on this, and there were some cracks made, I don't know, a few years back, jokes about the Trail of Tears, and it's like, the walk is not something to joke about, and it was
Right.
not just the Cherokee people. It
Right.
was it was all of the woodland tribes, yeah. So it's the 5 quote unquote civilized tribes. And people don't understand what the big deal is because they don't understand that my nation were farmers. We built homes and stayed in one place. We didn't pack up a teepee and follow the buffalo.
Right.
So to uproot all of those people and headed into winter,
Right.
with no regard to anything, old, young, sick, whatever, and they've lost everything at that point. March through winter. You can imagine I'm not a big fan of Andrew Jackson. So,
Tell us
um,
why, please.
yeah, so he signed the order.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he signed the removal order. And, how he felt about it is anybody's guess. There are claims that he wasn't pro on it, but was pressured. That doesn't mean much to me because it's like if it's your signature and you're the one pulling the trigger on it, you know, um, and it was so extreme because it's not like they were able to take everything that they would normally have either. This is where the tear dress comes from. Like if you've ever seen me in one of my tribal dresses,
Mm.
those dresses are made from rectangles that are exactly the same size, one for each sleeve, two for the front, two for the back for the bodice, panels for the skirt, the panels for the ruffle at the bottom of the skirt. And the reason for this is because they took knives and scissors away from us so that we didn't have anything to cut fabric with. So the women would bite the edge and tear the fabric in a straight line.
Wow.
So, and a lot of people say, oh, well, some people call it a tear dress for the Trail of Tears. Well, no, it's a tear dress. That's what it is. Yeah.
Well, I would call it a tear dress if I was the one making it. I'd be crying all day long. What the heck?
Right?
Give me that rock. Let me sharpen that rock. Somebody, come on. Let's sharpen a couple of these rocks.
So, it's people don't understand the depth of that, and one of my goals is to go back and if I'm ever physically up to it, I would like to walk as much of the trail as possible. I've known a few people to hike the Trail of Tears, and I want to map it out and see how much of it can be walked. I would like to do that just for myself,
Okay, so here's my question, and it'll sound disrespectful, but I do not intend to be. But I joke around because I don't know. I'm ignorant to,
Yeah.
Indian, Native American culture, tribal culture in that respect. But I always joke and I go, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." Or like, you ever heard like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah"? Like what am I saying or what am I replicating? Because I hear that a lot.
So people have heard, I think it's because people have heard the songs at intertribal events.
Mm.
So with some songs, there are words. With others, there are just vocalizations. Just like any other music. So it just depends. So if I go to an intertribal and there's uh, one of the host drums is a Lakota. If they're singing in
Mm.
Lakota, I have no idea what they're saying because I don't speak Lakota.
Mm.
But there's a few songs that I've learned that I do understand. Some that I learned for Sweat Lodge ceremony and things like that. So there was one that I learned a long time ago because I was given a tape of Gilbert Walking Bull, and it's the Sacred Eagle song. So that one I learned, and I know what the words mean, but um, that too is something that a lot of people are losing. Maybe things are not getting passed down quick enough.
Have you ever watched Whale Rider?
Yes, I have seen that one a couple times. It's interesting.
It's a powerful movie
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
powerful.
because it really shows not just Maori culture, but even Native Hawaiian culture, because they're related,
Mhm.
right? But
Yeah.
even when she was performing,
Mhm.
basically without her dad in the audience or grandpa,
Grandpa.
and you could hear the wailing in her voice.
Yeah.
Um, there you may not
I feel
understand.
that.
Yeah,
Total.
like
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
that.
And you know what? I keep saying that I'm gonna, like, there's people I said, I'm gonna send you, um There are some stomp dance songs posted in YouTube. I'll have to send you a link so you can hear it. And it's the same kind of thing. There's an emotion that is,
Yep.
unless you're connected to the culture, you don't fully understand it.
Mhm.
But even people outside the culture, when they hear it, if they're really paying attention, yeah.
There's a travailing of our people that you
Yes.
pick up in their song, or
Yes.
more so their chants. You'll pick it up more in the chants when you hear the travailing historically, what they've been through. And it's funny because a lot of people, we're surrounded by Caucasian people. So a lot of them will say stuff like, didn't you ever get island fever? And part of me wants to say, like, you ever got mainland fever or big land
Yeah.
fever? Yeah.
Did you want to leave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have
But
Turtle Island fever? So they call
Yeah.
we call it Turtle Island.
Turtle Island?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
That's what
Turtle Island.
the United States is called, Turtle
really?
Island.
Well, why is that?
Well, mythology for the nations that are indigenous to this continent believe that we're on a turtle's back. Yeah.
That's
And our
a
creation legends are different from tribe to tribe as well.
Mhm.
that's a very slow moving turtle.
Right? But yeah, the travail, I understand that. You know, not all stomp dance songs sound the same, but there are some like that I had a tape that I used to listen to, and there was someone that I was dating when I lived in Oklahoma who, he turned around and looked at the tape player. Yeah, I'm that old. Um, and he goes, "Yeah, that's a lot of emotion. You could hear that this man who's the lead caller, and it was so deep and guttural, and yeah, it's just impossible to explain to someone who hasn't heard it. But it's generations
Yeah.
of that connection. I believe in genetic memory anyway.
Explain that.
So the idea, the concept, the theory, whatever you want to call it, is that there are certain things, almost like instinct, that you see in animals that are able to, like weaver birds, replicate intricate nests. There's no way that they didn't watch another bird do that. They somewhat learn from each other, but they automatically know what to do. And
Mhm.
so I think there are certain things that are coded into our DNA. There is a connection that you have. Like, I was not raised with Cherokee culture. I explored it on my own once I knew something about it. And I started exploring it very young. But when I got back to Oklahoma, it was instant connection. I fit right in seamlessly. There was one of my elders that was very close to me, very important teacher that I had. And I would be at the stomp grounds. It's dark out there. There's no street lights. We're in the country. And I would watch him from a distance from the arbor. We would have there's a fire pit on the grounds there, and you have arbors that are for each of the clans. So I would sit with the Wolf clan arbor because that was my clan, and I would see him from all the way across the property, looking around in the darkness. I could see him turning his head, and he would triangulate on where I was and walk straight towards me. How do you know I was there? He can't see, especially at his age. He couldn't see that distance. But there is a connection to people who are your family in that way. Yeah.
I can see how that can quickly be distorted or twisted into like a mystic art or new age philosophy.
Yeah. And a lot of people have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I see how the generational pull or the pulling toward your of who you are. Because I was just thinking about that lady. What is her name? Or Hawaiian.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We met this lady in Portland, and she is part Native Hawaiian, and so
And she's from Hawaii.
and she's from Hawaii, and she grew up in Hawaii, but something had happened where they needed to move quickly, and so they moved out here to Oregon. And it's amazing that when you connect with people that are Native, it's different, right? There's this not just camaraderie, but there's this familiarity.
Familiarity. Let me say
That word
familiarity. I'm practicing my word salads.
about
Perfunctorily.
Yeah.
about not just the culture but who you are as a people, right? So she started to
Yeah.
cry when we were talking because she was talking about how she misses home, and there's a pulling, and it's when you meet other native Hawaiian people, there is that same understanding of, oh, I miss
Yeah.
home. I
Longing.
miss home. Yeah, there's that longing, and she started to
Yeah.
cry because of that. Not just the longing, but um I want to say just being a native people and understanding
Mhm.
one another in that aspect. It's
That,
just a powerful.
that's where I
And I
feel.
still feel it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even grow up in Oklahoma, but the time that I spent there was so intense, and I still feel it. There's still that wish I could go back, you know?
So where is home for you, Tala?
As far as where I grew up?
No, let me see if I can. If let's say you're pushing 90 years old, right? And you've done everything you needed to do, you and Jim or whoever in your life, you could have your kitty cats, whatever. You guys are in a good place, right? And you're like, you know what? I think it's time for me to go home. Where would that place be for you?
You know, it's funny, I absolutely adore coastal rainforests, but it would probably be Oklahoma or North Carolina. It would probably be to go back to my people there.
That's how
Yeah.
we feel every single day.
Mm.
Yeah.
No matter where no matter where God calls us to be, we always want to go back to where we're from. And I
That's why
feel,
I understand it. Yeah.
I feel for the people that we meet here that they don't have that. It's not that we're looking backwards, but for us, that is where, not just where we were born, but that is everything about my genealogy. I have obviously multiple ethnicities within me, but like Hawaii
Mhm.
will always be home no matter where we go. And
Yeah.
um, there is a time coming when we're gonna live primarily there and travel back and forth here and there. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of obviously my brother's condition, but I do feel for people that don't have that. And
If they've never made that connection, yeah.
Mhm.
And in my tribe has a prophecy around that with people like me. That I won't use the word because it's not something that I share publicly, but there is a name for people like me who are mixed blood but traditional, and it has nothing to do with blood percentage. All that goes out the window.
mm-hmm, yeah,
But our prophecy about it is that in the last days, for lack of a better terminology, we'd be called back, and that pull becomes stronger, right? And I mean, I have felt that for a long time, but life circumstances, here I am, you
yeah.
know.
Well,
Yeah, parents and everything else. Yeah.
well, they're all chapters, and you talking about the genetic memory, and I looked it up. It's easy to get that twisted. I think if you don't have an indigenous or First Nations upbringing or history, but
Yeah.
I do agree. Um, Without getting mystical about it, I do believe that there are genetic tendencies that are in us. Um,
Yeah.
a good one is my kids. Even if we didn't raise them, it would still be in them as a culture, as a people, to be loving and giving,
Yes.
and to be to long for something other than here. In terms of the like, we asked our kids the other day. I said, "Where would you guys like to live next? If it's short term, yeah, short term, yeah."
Yeah.
You know what my kids said? They said, Paris. Was it Paris?
Italy.
Italy. Yeah. So two of my kids said Italy, and what did
That's a
Gideon?
wild card.
Oh,
It's
and
in California.
and Gideon said California, and we're like, what? What's in California? He goes, I don't know. I just like it. I'm like, whoa. How do you know you like it? And it's like, wait. And it's
It's
so.
unique here, and I can see why people who are from the outside of it would be allured for the same reason that I stay here. It's not just family. That's a big part of it, but I mean, you've got everything. Everything. Ocean, the beaches, the mountains, the deserts, the rainforests, is everything. Yeah.
Well, at the end of that, it still led back to eventually though
Their long term is
Hawaii.
The
Hawaii.
islands. Yeah. As it should be.
So and I told them. So I don't even know if our other three are going to go to college. They may open up a business even before they're 18. I don't know. Actually, my youngest daughter for sure. She's very entrepreneurial. She's very skilled in a lot of things. So I know she's going to open up a business soon anyway. Yeah, the vitamin Z. Yeah. So
Yeah.
her and my wife are going to open up a business together.
Very cool.
What is it?
Vitamin C.
Beauty products? What is it? I don't even know.
I don't know. She likes beauty products, but also she likes sending like encouraging notes to people.
So that's a
Hmm.
business too for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just sends encouraging notes to family, friends, people we've met along the way. And the funny thing with her is she's very intuitive too. She knows
Mm.
and she would, people would just come up to us and say, "Hey, she came and sat down by me, or she came and she held my hand, or she came and gave me a hug, and she
You got to
she
mention
s-
her name in full.
she said something to me, and it's amazing because it's everything that they needed in that moment. And her
Mm.
name is Zoe Mana Okamea Uiloa, and we named her Zoe because it's God's life. Of course, we couldn't
Yeah.
have kids until God intervened. And so that's
Mhm.
why we named her Zoe. But manna, I felt like was the word that the Lord gave me, which is bread of life, or
Bread of heaven, liberal
Yeah.
translation.
literally, right? It's living from moment to moment with God in that moment. But Okamea Uiloa means bringer of joy.
Oh my goodness. That is powerful.
And
That's beautiful.
that's what she does for other people. It's just amazing to watch her and watch her life unfold, and and to receive a text, phone call, or somebody just walking up to us and say, I don't know what it is, but she came and she just gave me a hug, and I felt so good. Like I needed a hug in that moment because I wasn't, in a
Mm.
good frame of mind, or I was feeling depressed, and she just knew what I needed in that moment. And, it's just amazing to watch it unfold.
That's a gift.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, she got a cup, coffee cup in the mail, and it says on the coffee cup, "You got a friend in Texas." Is that what it
Yeah.
says? Yeah. So on a coffee cup, it says, "You've got a friend in Texas," and so someone that we became friends with in Hawaii, she moved back to Texas a couple of years ago. I want to say 2 years ago now, and anyway, Zoe would send her text messages every week or every other day, and then just a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, she gets a coffee cup in the mail from Texas, and that's the kind of thing that Zoe does. To go back
Mm.
to go back into the genetic memory, I do believe that, like, even from a biblical perspective,
Yeah.
we talked about the good stuff. Now we talked about the negative stuff.
Mhm.
In regards to genetic history, that's one of the things that my wife and I are very adamant about when we pray for somebody is there anything in your bloodline, is there anything in your history that
Mhm.
would give the enemy a legal right or authority to come up against you? And 9 times out of 10, for people that are going through stuff, there's typically something in their history that would give the enemy, Satan, a legal right or authority to cause havoc in their
Yeah.
life, right? Whether it's finances or health. What happened? Maybe, like, if you remember the story of Job,
Yeah.
right? God said, "Have you considered my servant Job?" God knew, obviously, that Job would serve him no matter what. But even with David, when David sinned, he had adultery and all that stuff.
Mhm.
When he repented, the scripture says that he repented not just for his sins, but his father's sins and his father's sins. And there's a generational and
Curse.
curse,
Yep.
and even like what we call genetic disposition in your family, that, like, it's kind of like, I don't know if anybody knows Charles Manson's kids today. I don't know.
Mm.
But if they do, I can guarantee they look at those kids and like, you're just like your dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Without even them doing anything.
Yeah. I did a lot of thinking really deeply several months ago about generational curses because some of the motivational speakers that I listen to in the morning talk about that. And in the broader sense, there is so much that falls in that category. I mean, people think of the obvious things, say alcoholism or, abusive situations, but there's a lot more. And I had to think about it because one of these speakers was talking about being a curse breaker. And I kept thinking to myself, why does this message keep popping up? Why do I keep running into this? Not just on one platform, everywhere. And why do people keep talking to me about this? There's always a reason. And I realized with all of my branding for Savage Not Average, I said it's mediocrity. Because everybody in my family is like jack of all trades, master of none. Really, the illustration of that. And we just do a little of everything. But where do we excel? And more importantly, I started asking myself, where do I excel? So I had to find things to define myself and break out of that. And with my illness, so much held me back for so long that I realized I know what the curse is that I'm trying to break. It's mediocrity. I'm trying not to be average. I want more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think to break a lot of those, I forget who was the author. Uh, Bloodline. Who did the cleansing bloodline? Was it Darren Begley?
No.
Who was that?
Um,
I can't remember.
what is
I can't remember. It was tied to that whole. So there's one teaching that we studied was talking about cleansing your bloodline.
It's. I think she's Czechoslovakian. That lady.
Yeah,
I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
but
That's a
Her first
difficult
name is
language,
Nicole.
yeah.
Yeah.
part of the concept with this teaching is that in the Bible it allows us to seek forgiveness on someone else's behalf, and applying it to generational curses or bloodlines, and
Courtroom of Heaven?
maybe it was courtroom. I can't remember, but it really addresses the issue of cleansing your bloodline. It's kind of like if I'm,
Yeah.
if I'm a Manson child, I'm definitely going to cleanse my bloodline. I'm going to say, Lord,
Yeah.
even be adopted into a whole nother family name, right, or whatever it takes.
Yeah. Which when you come to the Lord, you are adopted into a new family.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
The whole generational thing. Of course, Hawaiians have a history of alcoholism, but
Yeah.
generational bloodline things, right? I come from a family of alcoholics, right? That's all I've seen growing up.
Hmm.
But it's been generational. Even when I would talk to my grandma, she would talk about, my tutu and my tutu pa and how he would, he would get drunk and he would hit my tutu ma. And so my grandma always said that, she would never drink. So my grandma never drank in her
Yeah.
entire life. She never drank. She never drank around, my mom, them, or whatever. But I want to say 5 out of 6 kids, no, maybe four out of 6 kids became alcoholics.
That's heavy.
And that's opposite of who she was because she never drank and it skipped her, but it went, to her
Yeah.
kids. And out of all of my siblings, there's only one who's been an alcoholic my whole entire life. Like we are 16 years apart and I've never known him to never have used drugs and never drank. That's all I've ever known about him. That's all that's how he's ever been growing up to me. And just maybe I want to say 3 years ago, he became sober
Wow.
and he's pushing 60 now.
Man, that's a hard life.
Yeah. And that's like, that's a trip because I've never, I'm what,
Yeah.
45, 46, and I've never known him to be sober in all of my life.
And I don't know if they say there's a genetic component that Some people have more difficulty with it, and I don't know. I'm not an expert on that, but if that's the case, some people just don't have it. Maybe that's me because I had years where I definitely drank too much,
Hmm.
but I would just randomly decide or a month, and I'm like, good Lord, maybe 3 total drinks in a year. There's no category for that on the paper. That's the society we're in. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So, sorry, give me a second. We have to reset our computer, but I hear you on my cell phone. A little hiccup.
Yeah.
You can keep talking. I had to kick myself out, kind of, sort of.
If I had the ability to play an ad while he's resetting
Oh, I can do that right here. Hold on. Let's do this. Hold on. I think I have one. Oh, but I don't think it'd be. Well, let's just play some quick.
that, it's just me.
We'll play
I
some.
didn't even see anything that said there was a connection problem, so here we are.
Sometimes a desktop kicks
So
itself
I'll
out.
just continue on that note. Yeah, for some reason,
So
it
let's
is
just play
just
some
me.
quick.
And I didn't even see
We'll
anything
play
that
some.
said there was a connection problem, so here we are.
Sometimes a
So I'll
desktop
just
kicks
continue on that
itself out.
note. Um, yeah, for some reason it doesn't really affect me, and I had that conversation recently in a writer's therapy family hour with Nick, where he was like, whatever that component is, I don't have it because I can take it or leave it. And that's kind of how it is for me. Just take it or leave it. Um, Pretty much just like maybe one time in a year, we would.
I think it crashed. Oh, it did. That's so funny.
It crashed.
Well, family, that's our abrupt ending for our Glow Sessions number 35. This was a live recording on Twitter Spaces for you guys here on Spotify. Thank you so much for listening. We'll probably continue this at another time. And as a reminder, if you're not following me on all socials, it's The Real Greg Lopez on all socials and also my website, therealgilo.com. And if you would like to connect with me, go ahead and do so. I will say that it's been an honor having this conversation with you guys. On behalf of my wife, myself, and Tala, who was actually one of our heavy speakers tonight, we will see you on the next one. As I always say, love you guys. God bless you guys. Ahui ho, aloha and mahalo. Yes, sir.